I think we have to stop worrying about what other people think of us sometimes.
Right.
And it's hard in this business when, like you said, you are your own brand.
Right.
So what other people think of you really does matter.
I feel like a lot of people are just comfortable. They're making a decent living. They're, working their butts off for their clients and themselves and, doing all the things that need to be done. But like, what's the next stage,
That's one of the biggest things that we see is that the agents kind of feel like, I want more to my own business. Why am I contributing to this and not receiving as much in return?
Welcome to the T&T Real Estate Podcast, where we spark conversations that set you up for real estate success. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Tanya, and each week we bring you expert tips on navigating Northern Ontario's real estate market. Whether you're buying, selling, or investing, we've got the tools to help you thrive. Welcome back to the T&T Real Estate Podcast. I'm Tanya, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Tyler. Tyler, we were talking a little bit before we started rolling here. How was your evening last night? What'd you get up to?
It was not good. I chased a plumbing leak around my house. Actually, I didn't chase it for very long. It went straight down like water does. Mm-hmm. But I went down. So we have a bedroom in our basement that we keep is basically right now Christmas presents. And so I walked in to put another present on the bed, and there was like a little bubble in the ceiling. And so
like a little drywall bubble, did you like poke it and a whole bunch of water came?
No, it was actually fairly dry, which was kind of hopeful. So I poked it and it was like dry but wet, like you can like wet drywall. Mm-hmm. And then the wall was rippling beside my window. So I chased it and it was my kitchen sink. And it was like the smallest little leak that I hand tightened and it stopped leaking. And
right. Are you going to change the tap after that discovery, or you're just going to leave it?
I love my tap. I love my kitchen tap. It's not that old, so I'm going to keep it.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you managed to solve your plumbing leak problem. Mm-hmm. And you said, are you doing some additional renovations to your property? What's going on in your basement?
Yeah, the basement is like our little like dungeon. Mm-hmm. We rented it out when we were kids at first-time home buyers. And rented it, and it's just like it needs a little facelift. Yeah. So we're gonna do flooring, gonna paint it. We're gonna spruce it up a little bit, pot lights and stuff. So nothing crazy, but I think it'll be good.
You're gonna keep the configuration, like the bedroom down there and stuff.
Right. Yeah. And we need lots of space because we got 3 kids and lots of toys and stuff. So we just like jam everything in one of the rooms, catch-all rooms. So
that's good. That's awesome.
Yeah. What did you do last night?
Should I say this? I drank the remaining portion of our holiday wine from our Christmas party.
Yeah, Christmas party.
Ben helped me a little bit, yes. Yeah. So there was a little bit of wine had after dinner. And I started watching this really scary series called The Beast in Me. It's on Netflix with Claire Danes. I don't know if you know Claire Danes.
I don't.
She's more like Gen X, my generation. Really, really scary movie or scary series. Like there was some that was very compelling. But there were some parts where I just had to like stop because it was too close to bedtime.
Really?
Yeah, in the series. I told Ben, I'm like, I gotta stop watching it. Yeah. But I finished it last night and it was good ending. I love series that have a great, thoughtful ending. That's
fair.
It was really good. Okay, so and today, what are we talking about, Tyler?
We're gonna talk about agents. Usually, I mean, sometimes we do agent episodes, sometimes we do consumer episodes. Mm-hmm. Today is like strictly agent, basically. But we're going to talk about what to do when you're feeling stuck in your practice, but also at the brokerage, right? Mm-hmm. So there's multiple fixes, and we're just going to get into it and give our opinions because we both changed brokerages. Yep. So we have experience with that, and we have now, we have experience with agents coming onto our brokerage, and how we've been able to help them, get out of the plateau and into, a really good production. Yeah,
absolutely. It's interesting when you're in the business long enough, often you sort of go through waves, right? Like our market goes in waves, but I think it's a reevaluation when you as an agent become sort of like stuck or feeling like you said, like a plateau in your business. Right. Sometimes there's a sort of an urge to do something. You talk about the 7-year itch. And in this case, sometimes in real estate, people are just looking for a bit of a change and to switch brokerages. So what do you think, Tyler? I know you've spoken to a lot of agents who, have come our way or are thinking about contemplating moving. Right. What's the number one thing that you hear from them when they say they're scared to make a change?
I feel like it is a mixture of a couple different things. One is a fear of, what their clients and consumers and families and friends will think. And to kind of just squash that right away, when I considered my last move, which brought us here, I just called my clients, the active clients, past clients, and a couple that I thought would be future clients, and I just asked them the question, what's your opinion on me changing a brand? Mm-hmm. And they're like, we could not care less. Like, we're going to follow you wherever you go, mm-hmm. which is great. Well, thank you for the loyalty. But I feel like that's like, especially now more than ever. And I feel like, in the 80s, 90s, it was very brand heavy. Mm-hmm. But now, like, you, especially with social media, you are your own brand, and it's very important to kind of distinguish that away from, whatever flag that you're flying in the background of what you're doing.
Yeah. I think there is a little bit, and maybe, do you agree on this or not? I think there is a little bit of professional stigma on agents who move too frequently.
Right.
And I think some of the hesitation is sometimes I'm scared to move because I'm scared of what other people will think. What are the agents going to think?
Right.
Why am I moving? What is my problem? What is the issue? Yeah. So I think there's maybe a little bit of that sort of stigma about moving too frequently. Mm-hmm. But what's your opinion on sort of, I guess, the outside perception?
I mean, it's one of those things, and I'm kind of borderline on this. I think it is, if you're moving like too frequently. It's like when you're
dating.
I was just literally when you're dating, when you can't, when you have an issue with commitment, like, and you're kind of hopping back and forth or through whatever. I think that's a fair say, but I feel like at the end of the day, if where you are right now is not serving you, isn't that a bigger issue than what people will think? Like,
True.
If you're not happy and you're not producing and you're not living the lifestyle that you want to live, then isn't that more damaging to yourself than what your ego is telling you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have to stop worrying about what other people think of us sometimes.
Right.
And it's hard in this business when, like you said, you are your own brand.
Right.
So what other people think of you really does matter.
Right.
But sometimes it's important for you to just look at, what is your business and where do you want to be?
Right.
So there's a lot of agents we see that really aren't growing anymore, or they sort of feel like they're having that plateau. Is it loyalty that kind of keeps them at that specific brokerage, or is it fear, or is it something else?
It's both. I mean, we've talked to multiple agents mm-hmm. that it's strictly loyalty. They not necessarily they don't like what's happening at the brokerage, but it's just not serving them anymore. They're not getting the most out of what they could be getting out of that brokerage. But at the same time, maybe that broker or the owners have coached them up to where they are, mm-hmm. and they feel like they owe them, which is mm-hmm. fine. I mean, that's extremely fair.
Yeah.
And I felt that both times I moved in my 10 years. I'm extremely loyal. I hate moving. I hate doing the whole rebranding thing. But at the same time, where's my professional career going? Can I do it here? I couldn't. So it was time to make a move.
Loyalty is really important in
Right.
our business. It's important as a real estate agent, and it's important in business relationships with other agents as well, right? Because
Right.
we're always working with these people in our community. So loyalty is definitely important, but I think it's important for most of the agents to sort of look at what their business model is and where they want to go,
mm-hmm.
and sort of evaluate, is your current situation helping you get to where you want to go, or is it maybe holding you back?
Right.
Is it bit of a...
I think... Sorry, if you finish your thought.
I forget what I was going to say.
I was going to say that with like my one final point on kind of the loyalty fear mm-hmm. situation would be, I feel like a lot of people are just comfortable. Mm-hmm. They're making a decent living. They're working their butts off for their clients and themselves, and doing all the things that need to be done. But like, what's the next stage? Mm-hmm. And maybe and it's totally fine to be comfortable, but can you sell what you're selling now, but with a little bit of reduced, can your brokerage right now, help you hiring an assistant mm-hmm. or help you hiring, a buyer rep or, transaction coordinator, whatever it is, to get some help, so you can kind of buy back your time and do something else with that. More money making activities, less paperwork, or whatever you're not happy with. I mean, that's kind of my final thing is just like, people just like comfort, and they don't like, expanding the box.
Comfort, familiarity, the same foods, the same friends, the same environment. I think a lot of it is wonderful, right? I mean, we have a community, you have comfort in where you are,
right.
But there's a real, I don't know, I feel like you grow when you get uncomfortable, right? When you sort of push yourself a little more, you put yourself in a new situation, you grow a bit more.
Right.
And that was something that we always like instilled in our kids even, right? And I'm hoping also that as an adult, I'm still learning and growing and putting myself outside my comfort zone. But it's not to say that there's anything wrong with staying somewhere you're comfortable if everything meets your needs and you have, a healthy, thriving business and a good life.
Yeah.
I think that's important. But one of the things that, when I first got into coaching, my coach first asked me, what are the things that you don't love to do in your business, in your life at home? What are the things that we can help offload on you from your business? My business was great. Everything was fine, making enough money, bills were paid, family was happy. But when you start to hone in on what are all those little things that kind of make your day less wonderful, where can we offload that? And that's where coaching really helped. And I think when you're looking, some of our agents, have looked at other brokerages or looking to maybe move within our community, the big thing isn't always about production.
Right.
Am I going to sell more houses, make more money? It's not about that. It's about, can I have a better balance of my life and family life? And sometimes they may not feel that support in the brokerage to be able to sort of, if there's a crisis or something, or they just wanted to take a holiday, for example.
Right.
They don't take the holiday, or they go to Mexico, but they're still on the beach working.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So sometimes agents might be looking at that kind of lifestyle shift. And that's where maybe you don't want to start a team. Maybe that's outside your comfort zone. Maybe it's not a business model you want to obtain or sort of practice, but you can still have those supports by joining the right brokerage who, have the agents and have the support structures in place.
And it's to have the experienced agents paired with the newer agents that can kind of, the experienced agents might not want to do, the open houses and the door knocking because they have an established business. But if you can offload and give opportunities to the newer agents so they can become, experienced and go through all the trials and tribulations that we all have, I think that's the kind of key to any brokerage. If you're lopsided with brand new agents and only a couple experienced agents, or vice versa, lots of experience and nobody to do the grunt work, I think that's kind of where it maybe gets out of balance a little bit. But if you have a good mix, it's you can thrive on either side.
Yeah, it allows for that sort of mentorship of the new agents to gain experience and knowledge. And I find even when, I'll bring it back to our brokerage, but even when we're having those discussions at our Tuesday meetings, it's really nice to have, the newer agents asking questions. Well, how do I do this? We're leading into this season. How do I move forward with that? And then the experienced agents really giving their own sort of advice and opinions.
Right.
You get this really great synergy between the two groups and just a natural sort of fit where everybody can kind of learn from each other. And of course, our experienced agents do benefit from having the new agents who want to take on all those tasks like open houses.
Right. So what do you think the biggest, I don't want to call them red flags, but biggest, something that comes, let's call it a red flag. What are the biggest red flags that, tell you that maybe you've outgrown your current brokerage or you need to change? Yeah.
So I think one of the things that we often hear about is agents feel like they're building somebody else's brand or business and not building their own brand and business. So that's one of the biggest things that we see is that the agents kind of feel like, I want more to my own business. Why am I contributing to this and not receiving as much in return? So lack of support, lack of training, feeling like perhaps you're building somebody else's brand rather than your own. I think those are probably the two main things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like after that it would be like some smaller things, like, you know, training, like if we were kind of just recycling the same trainings on, you know, our you know, weekly meetings, if we're just getting, you know, the same speakers to come in and kind of rehash the same thing, it's kind of just like, okay, what's next? What can we learn? And you know, it's funny because I did like a clean out of my Instagram recently. I was following like 1,900 people, and I just like went through and deleted about like 500 of them.
Oh, wow.
And just like, you know, these like, I mean, a lot of the accounts weren't even posting anymore, so I kind of just deleted. And, you know, but then I really wanted to focus on like what I'm listening to, and instead of like, I feel like our jobs as kind of owners is to find, you know, all the different training techniques and then bring them back, and so we have an arsenal to give to each specific agent that, you know, maybe one doesn't want to cold call, so we do something else, and maybe one doesn't want to be on social media, so we do cold calling or whatever. So I feel like our job is to kind of, you know, find all of the things and then bring it down so we can have different ideas. But I feel I kind of reduced, you know, the amount of people I'm following, but just followed. I would like in 2026 to kind of reduce that and bring it back to, you know, I'm following these specific people that are all doing really good jobs in their specific territories.
Yeah.
And then so we have it kind of more dialed in.
Yeah, I think that's really important because I think some, you know, even ourselves, maybe we focus a lot. You know, we started maybe our first 2 years doing a lot of training with one specific type brand, right? Which we all love and enjoy.
Yeah.
That in itself evolves quite a bit because it's evolved a lot with AI and new advances in technology. And it seems like every week it changes in AI. Are your listing descriptions written properly? Now, is it AI crawled or is it Google crawled? So everything is changing all the time. So it's important that your brokerage and that your leadership team at the brokerage is also changing and adapting to what the market needs and what the new marketing needs for, you know, as time advances and technology advances, certainly.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, have you ever heard an agent say like maybe they're afraid to start over with a new brand? Like they've kind of, you know, they've grown they've gone up the ladder as far as you can go as an agent. What would you say to somebody that, you know, you're sitting down with that might be afraid to change brokerages? And he says, you know, I'm afraid of starting over.
Yeah. A lot of people are afraid of making that change because it's changing your signs, it's changing your business cards, and they're worried they're going to miss out on business, right? And you have the great example at the beginning in saying you talked to your clients and said, you know, what would you think if I change brands? And really, it doesn't matter. Your clients know you for who you are and how you show up and how you deliver, and they're not necessarily focused on what brokerage is behind you.
Right. And I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm going to lose this thought. I remember one time, like right after I switched brokerages, I listed a house a couple weeks later. It ended up selling. They didn't realize what brand was on their front yard until I flipped the sign and took a picture of them beside the sign. Yeah. It was just like, really, you know, it was like that's how little that they, you know, consider the brand. Sorry. So
it doesn't necessarily matter what brand you're with, right? Because you're your own person. But it can be an opportunity for agents who are maybe feeling stuck or plateau to like reinvent yourself. Right. You know, introduce yourself to your past clients, your sphere of influence, and say, hey, I'm doing this. Things have changed. And maybe get a few key points of why are you excited for this change? Why are you making this change? Never speak negatively about the other brokerage. I think that's another thing too, is be classy in your approach to your move. But it gives you an opportunity to then reach out to your clients and past clients and just say, hey, I'm with this brokerage now. This is why I decided to make the change. I'm going to be delivering these new services or whatever the case may be. And, you know, demonstrate you're excited for it. And for a lot of our agents who have made, certainly we can see it from our side, the agents who made the move to our brokerage, how has that change affected them? And they've all done very, very well. And that they've even said that reintroduction to their sphere has helped them sort of just communicate with their clients a bit more and get back in touch. Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's a perfect touch point to, you know, show the excitement for, you know, what's next in your career. And I mean, one thing that I would say to like, you know, the scared of starting over is that like, it's kind of like building a house. Like your first brokerage is the foundation. You've gained, as you know, it's a solid poured foundation. You have all your plumbing in there. You're ready to rock and roll. But what's the next step? So can switch in a brokerage, and maybe it's the same brokerage that can help you build the whole house. It's totally fine. But maybe you're at the foundation and you can't go any farther at your brokerage. You need now you need your carpenter to come and build the walls, right? And keep going and keep climbing up there. So I think that's important. It's just like knowing when you're at that stage, when you're at that ceiling and busting through.
I think it's evaluating like what's keeping you there at that ceiling, what's keeping you there, and what do you need to move forward. Maybe it's not a change of brokerage, honestly. Maybe it's a change in your lifestyle. Maybe it's new coaching. Maybe it's something else that you're going to develop. But it's nice if you have the support of your brokerage in that as well.
Right.
Yeah. So if you are going back, let's say, Tyler, you're just an agent, you're not a broker owner, and you're thinking about making the move to a new brokerage, or perhaps you've already found a new brokerage you want to move to. How do you go about breaking up?
Doing the breakup.
Yeah.
I think you need to start, your marketing and stuff.
Quietly in the background.
You know what? Just like kind of reinvent yourself. Unless like what you're doing is like perfectly fine. But I would say like just know what you're moving to, even if you don't start like printing signs and doing all the things like. And there's always an honor in going to your broker owner or your broker record and saying, you know what, like I am going to be looking at different options. I like what's happening here. I just want to see like what else is out there. And I think that's a pretty important conversation to have. Unless you're moving to a position where it's just like it's not doable, then I would say, you know what, get all your ducks in a row, then have the conversation, and then you can kind of hit the ground running. Get your social media posts if you want to do a few of them with your new branding. And so you have it like a backlog of, okay, this is what I'm posting this week. Maybe it's why you decided to switch, who you are, where you're going, what you want to see in the future. So I'd say like start quietly in the background, have that conversation with your current broker owner, and you'll be ready for what's next.
And maybe if you sort of hit the plateau, maybe you can talk to your broker owner a little bit ahead of time and just let them know what you're looking for as well. Like maybe there's some changes that they're going to be implementing in the near future that would align with what you want to do and how you want to grow. But essentially, once you've made that decision and realize that brokerage is no longer serving you and you're ready to make the switch, I think you do approach it, like you said, get all your ducks in a row, get kind of ready to make the move, and go have that conversation in person with your broker and let them know. And, wish them the best. Never burn any bridges, because it's a small community here. What are we, like 450 agents in town? Right. So, yeah, it's important that you maintain really good relationships with everybody, and even relationships with the old agents that were at your old brokerage too.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. When I made my last switch, I went to the owner, told them what was happening, and then I shortly after just started calling my little core, your little friend group in the brokerage. I called them and just kind of told them what was happening and why I was making the move, and most of them were extremely supportive. But yeah, if there was one thing that you could kind of know before or I guess like looking back at like the move that you made, would you like, what could you tell yourself about like, what's one thing that you kind of wish you would known about that?
Yeah, so ours was a long time ago. I want to say it was like 10 years ago we moved, and I was part of a team move. So it was something that I didn't really control, and I don't think I realized at that time that maybe I could have had a little bit more control in how everything sort of transpired. Right. But it's different when a whole team moves and you're kind of part of that team. I think what I wish I had known was that like, it's really not that hard, and there was a concern certainly with being part of a much more recognizable brand we were with, certainly, and then moving to a smaller brand, both Canadian brands, right? I think that was always very important to me, that I was supporting a Canadian company. But I think I wouldn't be so scared, and I maybe would have moved when it was more appropriate for myself and just reevaluated my own business ahead of time.
Right.
Yeah.
So did it kind of come down like your team leader came into a meeting and was like, okay, this is what's happening?
We actually had discussions about it quite a bit in advance. So It wasn't like, hey, this is what we're doing, you're coming along.
Yeah, here's your new business cards.
Yeah, it was, the timing of it was all just kind of, decided, and how it was going to actually work out was kind of decided for me. But I think, even if you're, and the team move too, I mean, that's one of the things too, is if you're going to be moving to or from a team, that's also a very delicate move to make one day if you're contemplating it. But I think it's one of those things that I can look back in hindsight now, like 15 plus years in the business, I should always have been doing annual reviews on my business, where I am and where I want to be, because I think that's very important. That's something I've learned through the coaching that we've been doing.
And now you make me do it every single
every year, and our agents,
times
and we
almost.
make our agents do it too. Yeah, which is great.
Sounds good. Cool. So, I mean, I guess it's important to note that like when you join a brokerage that supports your transition, it's not like you won't lose momentum. Like there's no harm in, changing when you're ready to change. But it's not something that is going to set you back for a couple months. When, a couple of our agents that have joined us, like they, hit the ground running, they made a ton more sales than they did at their previous brokerage. And it was all just because the right kind of path. I feel like we have a pretty good kind of process of doing that, but it's just like you follow it to a T, or to, make it your own. And I think it's a very easy, and it's all, instead of like bringing back the momentum, it almost pushes it forward, because you're doing those touch points with your clients. It's a really, really easy, reach out to say, okay, I'm changing. What do you guys think? Or watch out for my new marketing, whatever. So I think it was
almost like a reinvigoration for them. I feel like, maybe I'm speaking out of turn because it's not me, but I feel like it was a reinvigoration for them. And not to say they didn't do the work. Like our agents did a ton of work in 2025, but they had the systems, they had the momentum, and they felt reinvigorated to like go into work with a positive mindset and, come to the office and contribute and hopefully gain a lot too in coming to the office.
Right. Okay, so what would you say to somebody that's asking, like, what do we do differently when somebody comes to us?
Yeah, so it's hard to know because we don't really know what other brokerages do when people go over there, but we can certainly say what we do. So initially, when an agent's going to be moving over to our brokerage, we immediately sit down and do their business plan. So if it's partway through the year, we do like a 6-month plan. If it's at the beginning of the year, we do a full year plan. Or if we're kind of somewhere in the middle, we'll just do a plan for like, where do you want to go? So immediately they have access to our mentorship program and our business planning program. And we try to identify the needs and sort of like what they were maybe missing. Sometimes it's hard to know. It's hard to know what you don't know, what they don't know, until you actually start working together. So the first few sort of deals or transactions, we'll monitor them maybe a little bit more closely, make sure that they have the support they need for the paperwork, for example. And but mostly it's going to be about getting them into activity, making sure their activity is consistent with their production goals, right? We don't sit down and dictate and say, you need to make X sales or whatever. We really want to work with them tailored to what their goals are. So immediately we set up the business plan, get working on action items, and then develop sort of an accountability procedure to make sure that they're on track. And immediately they know that pretty much 24/7, you or I are available. So, if there's any little glitch, any issue, the middle of the night, middle of a deal, that they can reach out to us. Yeah.
And I think a very important part of that is like our marketing and branding setup too. Like we would sit down with obviously our assistant Andrea, who's the guru behind all of Sutton's, social media, and so is ours as well. But we have access to create a brand around what you want to, the agent that you want to be, the person that you want to be, what niche you want to be, and we can kind of just help you with those, the messages that you want to put out, the colors, the branding, the templates. We have everything set up, so it's just about training them on what what kind of we expect, but also, you know, what we can help with them, help them
We
with.
want to learn about their goals, ideals, and also like their brand, what they want for their brand presence. So it is not just a business side, it's also sort of a marketing component that we really do want to help them with. Right. Yeah, I think one of the big things about us and certainly Sutton brand is that there's no pressure. There's no pressure in our office. There's pressure where you want to apply pressure, right. But we really like to talk and have the conversations. So if an agent's out there and wants to have maybe a transparent conversation about what does it look like to move to a new brokerage, we're totally open to it.
Right.
So we're not into pressure here at Sutton. We're into really talking to agents who may be contemplating a move. So if you maybe are contemplating a move and want to have a conversation about it, we're happy to talk about it.
We're always here for a confidential conversation, and until then, stay ahead in real estate.